The discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, which is the section from the quadratic formula that's normally under the square root sign. So remember, a is whatever number is in front of x squared, b is what's in front of x, and c is the number on the end. Now the discriminant will help us to work out how many roots, which is a fancy way of saying how many solutions there are for a given quadratic equation. So if b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, so it's positive, then we will know that we have two roots. Now to show you this sort of graphically, we know what a quadratic looks like. So the quadratic would do that, and so we can see it's crossing here at 2 points, and so there would be two solutions. If it's equal to 0, then graphically, again, this helps to understand it, that would be equivalent to having a quadratic that does this. So it's only touching in 1 point. So you can think of that as having just one root, or think of it as having two roots, but both roots are the same. And then finally, if it is less than 0, so it's negative, so just think about it, the square root of a negative number, as far as you're concerned, is something you can't deal with, okay? And so that leads us to having no roots. And if we look at that graphically, that would look like this. And we can see it doesn't touch the x-axis or go through it in any way, shape or form. Greater than 0, positive. That means there are two roots, two solutions. Equals 0, that means there's one root, or if you like it, two roots that are the same. And if it's negative, if it's less than 0, then there are no roots, there are no solutions. So let's put that into practice. So we're just going to work out how many roots, if any, the following have. So remember, it's b squared minus 4ac, just that bit from under the square root sign in the quadratic formula. In the first case, b is 4, so 4 squared is 16, minus 4 times 1 in front of the x squared, and minus 3 is the c. And so let's work out what this is. So we've got 16, and we've got 12 over here, and that's going to be a plus 12, so that's going to be 28 altogether. So that is greater than 0, so we're expecting two roots, two solutions. Let's try b. So b's b is minus 10. When it's squared, we're going to get 100. And then we're going to have minus 4 times 1 times 25. Okay, so 4 25s are 100, so you can see we've got 100 minus 100, so that equals 0, and therefore that's going to be one that has just one root. Third one, so b is 6, so 6 squared is 36, minus 4 times 1 times 11. So that's 36, take away 44, so that's going to be minus 8, which is less than 0, and therefore that has no roots. You can't square root a negative number, because when you square something, whether it started life positive or negative, it becomes positive. So there are, as far as you're concerned at this level, you cannot square root a negative number. So here's a more typical exam-like question. Here we're being asked to work out the values of k for which this equation, quadratic equation, has no real roots. So we need to know what that condition is. So if it's got no real roots, then it must be less than 0, remember. So we want to use the b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. Our b is minus 3. If we square that, we get 9. Minus 4 times 1 is our a times c, which is our k minus 2. And that needs to be less than 0. So let's tidy that up a bit. So we've got 9 minus 4k plus 8. So that's 17 minus 4k is less than 0. Okay, let's take away 17 from both sides. We'll have minus 4k needs to be less than minus 17. And then we're going to divide by minus 4. Now remember, when we're doing inequalities and we multiply or divide by a negative number, it means that the inequality sign is reversed. So that's going to give us k greater than minus 17 over minus 4. Okay, so k needs to be greater than 17 over 4, which is 4 1/4 if we turn it into a mixed number. Let's do one last example here. So again, we're trying to work out what values of k we'd need for this to have one root. So remember, if it's got one root, that means that the b squared minus 4ac will equal 0. So b in this case is the k. So we've got k squared minus 4 times 2 times 9 equals 0. So that's k squared minus 8 times 9 is 72. So that brings us to k squared equals 72. And so k will be the square root of 72, which is plus or minus 8.49 rounded to 3 significant figures.